We got twofers going again. Hello, hello. YouTube, Facebook this time. And we're having fun creating this lattice look with molds. IOD has so many amazing things, and as you know, I used to be a retailer for them, so I'm on board, and I have so much fun. But as a consumer, there's only so much this girl can buy at one time. So they came out with a new product launch for 2024, the first quarter, and they do have like a branches mold that can give you, it gives you like the little cross sections to make a lattice. So it's a bunch of like sticks, like bamboo or more of a woody stick, and it gives you the straights and it gives you the cross sections, you know, and it gives you options for that. But I said, you know, we really don't need that. When we had some nice, unless you want the bamboo, we had some nice versions on the Verdi, which I did buy. All right, so I already used it on the top of this piece. If you saw the little video, you know, okay? And I started before, because this was Easter holiday weekend, and before I left, I did get one sort of section in, and I just added, for another quick little video, I added this little portion down here and this here. All right, so here's the start to the project. Now, everything's going to be behind this, you guys. It's going to be behind it. Hello, hello. Please don't be shy. Please, if you like what you see, share with your friends. So there's only so much that I can do with this laying down. This was actually a big decision for me to stop where I did. I was going to keep going, but I realized that my leaves mold, the leaves part of the Verdi mold, was still damp and wet, and they would have been smushed if I laid the picture down. At some point, unless I just stop and do the other half, we'll have to do the picture straight up. But it's nice when you're gluing, if you can, to have it on more of a, laying down rather than vertical. That way the glue, the gravity doesn't take over and the molds don't just slide off, if that makes any sense. So, and I tried to raise my project up, but I'm not sure that's going to work out for us. I did it for the video, and let me just get this out of the way. I have some molds made. We're going to make some more. I'm also going to discuss how we do a fix when you come back to it and maybe something adjusted, it moved, it cracked, or it separated a little bit from the surface. We're going to talk about that if you're new to all this. If you're new to me, thank you. Oops, sorry. If you're new to me, thank you for watching. If you like my kind of crazy, please like or subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and if you do kind of like my kind of crazy, it would be greatly appreciated if you give us a share and let your friends know. It's a whole new ball game for me now that I've closed my shop in Hyannis, this is all on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, if you're not familiar, and I'm working from my basement. So if you hear noises and stuff, I got my husband doing some spring goody working, cleaning up on the yard. We have dogs. We have my mother-in-law with, thankfully we can't hear the TV because it's typically very loud. But you know, 92 years old, if you can hear it all, God bless you. Okay, so we have the TV usually on pretty loud, although I don't hear it right now, so I wonder if it went into sleep mode. Should have checked that before I started the video. I just realized that I didn't really hear anything, but we'll see. This won't take long, I don't think. I'm just kind of stalling to kind of get some people on. Hopefully, I see one person. Thank you, thank you. Please say hello. What are you up to today? Are you creating? Are you like? You gotta like decompress from the holidays, unless you're at work, and then you just gotta get out of work and then decompress. It's exhausting, isn't it? So to get to this point, okay, we're going to talk about this now. This was the, I don't know if you can tell, like it's that shiny glazed ceramic. And it was very late 80s, early 90s, you know, little cute little flowers or something on there. I can't really remember. But it just wasn't a desirable thing anymore. So what I did is I put slick stick down. And I got a big lesson on that between you and me, okay? If you do not completely stir your slick stick or your bonding boss at this point, because slick stick is the old primers. It used to be slick stick for the slick and sticky, you know, slippery surfaces. And it was bonding, it was just boss for the blocking, okay? B for boss. So it would block the tannins, it would block the bleed through, it would block the odor, right? But bonding boss is both. It sticks to the slick surfaces and it blocks the tannins and odors. But either way, you want to stir it really, really well. I know I cleaned it well, and I'm assuming that I did try to scratch the surface, and it ain't going to be easy. Like if you're working on glass, you know, unless you got like a diamond sandpaper, but just try, you know, try to give the surface a little scuff if you can. Then make sure what I do before I do anything to any of those surfaces, whether it's Formica, stone, metal, whatever, I wipe it down with just a regular old, okay, rubbing alcohol. Okay, if it's furniture pieces, I like to use denatured alcohol because it's, you know, a lot bigger portions. I can get it in the big can. But wipe it down. If you have to, scrub it a little bit with a finishing pad, which we sell, and then wipe it off really good. Let that alcohol dry. Now I use the alcohol because, now yes, you can use vinegar, you can use TSPs, you can use all of that, and they have their purpose. But for the final wipe down, I do like the alcohol, and that's a whole story in itself. But let that dry because it'll evaporate. You're not going to have any residue, and that's why I like the alcohol. Also, if you did have any oils or polishes left over, they're going to give you a high shine, like a high white muckiness, and you'll know that you got some more scrubbing to do. So after scrubbing, and I put on my slick stick, but I don't think I stirred it really well. I do remember being in a hurry. So I think I shook the jar a little bit, and then I started painting it on. And then I waited my hour or two, and I went to put on my second coat, and it was just coming right off. Lesson to self. Okay, don't do as I say, don't do as I do, do as I say. Make sure you stir it really well. Shake it up, stir it up, because there are some proprietary agents in there that are going to not blend into the whole thing unless you're mixing it well, okay? Any primers, especially when it's something that's got to stick to something like that, okay? You got to listen to the directions. But I can't emphasize enough the difference it made to really stir that well. Because I just ended up just taking a scrubby and just scrubbing the rest of that off. It went to the dead pile, and if you guys know me, you know what the dead pile means. And then I finally got it back, cleaned it up, scratched it up, wiped it down with the alcohol, and stirred my slick stick really well, and we had success. So I did it. Slick stick only comes in white, but what's nice is the new bonding boss comes in the 3 colors. So you can do it in a clear if you're going to do, you want some of the wood to show through, or you're doing a brown and you're doing a brown wood or whatever. If it's a similar color background, why put something lighter or darker on than what you're working with? Or you can use a white if you're going to be putting on a white over a darker color, right? Because that'll already start to give you a base. And the gray, if you're doing grays or dark colors or reds, make sure you use the gray. And again, listen to the directions, stir it really well, make sure it's nice and clean. If you can, tack it and then wipe it down nice and clean, and listen to the directions. Paint it on, give it its time, paint it on again, and then let it sit like 24 hours, okay? Then you can do what you need to do. So what I did after I slick sticked it and let it dried at least 24 hours, I took, what did I do? I just took, I think it's driftwood. I think I just took driftwood. It really wasn't that long ago. Okay. Don't ask me. Okay. I don't even assume it's driftwood, the gray that you're seeing peeking through here. And what I did is I just took like a brush like this, like an older brush, and I painted it on 2 coats, okay? So you paint it maybe a couple different directions. I like this sort of woven look that it has. I don't know if it's going to show through, because when I went over with the fluff, I did the same thing. So I got a lot of this vertical, horizontal pattern going with the paints. I actually did it with the slick stick as well. And note, if whatever you're doing with your primer, if you really want a smoother surface, get like a 600 grit sandpaper and try to smooth out any brush strokes before you start painting. Because whatever happens with the primer, it's not going to smooth out like it does with the chalk style paints, where, you know, or level, it doesn't really level as nicely. I mean, it levels pretty good for a primer, but you know, whatever you leave in the primer, your paints aren't going to cover that. It's going to show, okay? So if you want some of that texture, keep that in mind. So when I did my layers, I did one layer pretty much up and down, okay, with my slick stick, and then when that dried, I did the second layer pretty much horizontal. And I didn't leave it like really textured, but it was like, you know, so when you did paint, it was going to be part of this whole process. This is what I wanted to do to begin with. And so when I did my, I let the second coat of my driftwood dry. Again, I put it on with this sort of rougher brush, and maybe one direction in the first coat, another direction on the second coat. Let that dry, and then with the fluff, it wasn't necessarily 2 coats on everything, but what I did is I would start with a lot of paint on, and it was actually, that part was actually by accident. I started to put it on, and I started pulling, right, and it would pool up at the top, and then I remembered, as I was, you know, pulling from the pooled area and pulling down and letting it get dry, right? So you get these like where the paintbrush started to dry out, and you get very haphazard markings with the white over the gray. That I wanted to do, but then when I was thinking about the pooled area, I was going to like try and smooth that out, and then I said, wait a minute. If that's nice and thick, especially if I hit it with a blow dryer and dry it fast, we get a little bit of texture. Now, some of it kind of got covered up with the, I don't know if you can tell, it's in here, okay? A little bit of crackling in some spots where I put the paint on thicker. And I hit it with the blow dryer, and it crackled on its own because it's such a dry paint. And if you put it on thick like that, it dried up and crackled up. So that was a nice little afterthought. And so, and then some areas I felt like there was just too much shadowing of the gray underneath, so I did put maybe a second coat of the fluff in some areas, and then let that dry. And then we did the stamp. The stamp is, again, another new product from Iron Orchid Design. It is the veranda, and it has the 2 different size lattice. It has the little florals. And so I really love these little roses, and so I went with it, okay? And I knew I wasn't going to be covering everything, and I want to show some of the detail of the paint. So I didn't do it as an all-over pattern, but it's there, okay? Not a total rhyme or reason, but it's there. So I think that's got to get moved. I think I jogged it. So that's how we got to this point. I mean, then we add, well, of course, the clay, like we're going to show you today, only we did the leaves to begin with. All right, and that's in a quick little video that's on Reels and Shorts and TikTok. So you can get a quick little tutorial on how the leaves went on. Now that those are dry, I can lay at least one side down and we can continue with our mold making. So I like to try to cup the rounded pieces with a towel or whatever, so it doesn't roll away. It gives it maybe a little more stability. There's no rhyme or reason to this. Just do it the best way you can. And I'm going to lower the one camera down so you can see what's happening. Let's see. I'm sorry for the jogged camera. It's going to happen in a second here, but you got to come down to the work surface. There we go. Okay. And actually, we're going to move Facebook down too. So this is going to be fun because I got to just squat the legs on my tripod. So that should be pretty good. All right. So I just have Juliet out because I was using it as a bumper. This is the Verdi, and if you've never used the molds before, we're going to go over, I have some areas that the glue lifted up so they're not fully on the surface, so we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about how to do fixes if you had big cracks, but as you can see, even after I left, okay, I did not have any big cracks in those leaves, and that's on a vertical surface. And part of it is the way I glue it down, and part of it is the glue that I used. The Type Bond Quick and Thick, I don't know if the camera is writing this for you, but I'm probably backwards. I notice sometimes now the camera is writing everything, like I'm noticing my shirt is, you can read it. The Type Bond Quick and Thick, to me this is if you can find it, because here on the Cape it was a challenge. And sometimes I still can't get it, so I have to order it sometimes. But this one is a game changer when you're crafting with anything that needs to set up fast. Because you don't want these sliding down forever. You can't sit there forever and babysit the molds, right? And I'm using the Iron Orchid Designs Air Dry Clay. And you can use the clays that you get at the craft stores, okay? It does that; those will work just fine. But some of the techniques to keep it from cracking are going to be a little more important to you. And you want to make sure you knead it really well. Sometimes I get in a rush and I don't knead it well enough, and I get some cracking, and that's fine. And I just realized how important really taking the time to kneading it is. So if you have the time, give it, you know, a little extra love, and it'll really blend nicely, especially this clay. This clay, I will continue to use it. I could be like everybody else and do not to say I won't ever go to the craft store or get this other stuff. I will probably be ordering the Formflex if you've never used Formflex. I had a little issue in the beginning, but I realized that the Formflex is very sensitive to the type of freezer you're putting it in. So it's a product that's a clay, but it'll stay not malleable, but bendable, flexible, whatever, flexible. But once you put it in the mold like we're doing now, I would set it in the freezer for 20 minutes, and it doesn't like the little portable mini fridge freezers, apparently, because I think that was my problem. I've done more since I've been home. I've done it again, and it worked out beautifully. The molds came out beautiful. It is pricier, so it's not something you use on everything, but it's rated to be an outdoor product. So if you're doing things like pots that are going to be outside, that's important to keep in mind. Because even like the resins, you'd have to be careful of the resin, I think, if it would put up with, especially if you're in the north with the extreme colds. And then you got the heat and all that and rain and whatnot. Let me show you a Formflex piece. These have been done. Here's, I think, one. And what you do is you can store them in a baggie with like in parchment paper. And they're supposed to stay flexible. See? Now, if I really tried to bend that, I think it would crack at this point. But I could put it on a piece like this, no problem. See, that's what's left over from my can, my little soup can posy pocket. The details are really nice on it. So that was a nice thing to come across. I almost gave up on it, but it is, like I said, it was just sensitive to the freezer that it was in. It was being a little bit of a freezer snob. These are older. Let's see how these are. Let's see if they're still bendable. Yeah, not bad. It's still bending. This goes way back. Probably to spring. Look at that, last spring, and it's still bendable. And the detail is incredible. This is a Zuri mold, by the way. So I could just put this on any piece I want right now. You'd have to tape these into place, but definitely a win-win. And they're outdoor rated, so that's that. So that's called Formflex. I am excited to try these woodja bins. Okay, I've got trim, and I've got this piece. I'm gonna put on something. I don't really know yet, but I want to play with this. It's so pretty. It does have that sort of shell detail in the center. And these are bendable once you heat them. All right, they're flexible once you heat them. All right, so let's get back to the molds. Let's make a couple more. I got off subject again. I got off subject. All right, so let's not smash our molds. All right, let's dust this with cornstarch so it has a nice release. And we're going to roll the clay so we can get it in there nice. Let's get this piece out of here. And just press it in there, but you want a nice flat back. So you see me pull the putty knife across the back. Because, you know, if you try to glue something that's a little wonky doodle like that, it isn't going to have a nice flat surface, and it certainly isn't going to dry flat, no matter how you tape it, right? So I'm just using my finger at this point. It's just a skinny little piece. This is one of those things where you're definitely playing in the sandbox between the clay that's kind of on my fingers, and once the glue comes out, like, whoo, like it's no joke. You're going to have some messy fingers working with glue and clay. I am really excited to work with some of the new Dixie Belle products, but I am all about this texture. So we're going to have to play more with the water slides. Was super fun. That was in our last live. Of course, I lost sound on YouTube. The whole microphone thing. I really do, maybe from my birthday or something, my Mother's Day or something this year, I got to get new microphones that the batteries just don't conk out like that. They just go through the batteries like crazy. And nothing works with the iPhone because iPhone's a snob and thinks, well, our microphone is just fine the way it is. So the phone is on Facebook. So I'm sorry about the sound. I don't have my switcher, which would allow me to have the better sound. But that's that. All right, so now that we have a few pieces done, let's start to embellish this, okay? And I'm going to try and do this upside down so you guys can see. I got a full X done. And if I wanted to, I could have made this smaller, I suppose, right? But we're not going to do that. So let's see. Let's do upwards this time. And I suppose there's a way that I should measure this, but it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Okay, so I want, if we have to add a little something, I want it to be on the bottom. And no matter what I do, the angle's wrong on this one. So let's try this one. There we go, that's better. Okay. Is it this leaf? I'm trying to keep like the same kind of angles, and I'm doing this upside down. So you got to bear with me here. Okay, so YouTube, see, we're just trying to figure this out. So, oh, I can see the camera, but if I bring this down to here, we're gonna miss it on the top. I'd rather have a little added section on the bottom rather than the top. So let's do that. All right, so we have that. And with all my playing with this, I did lose some details, but we can add that back if you have like little toothpicks. Or other little tools that you can use. Sometimes I just use the end of an X-Acto knife. Sometimes just the putty knife to add lines. Okay, so I think we were going to this leaf. But see, here's why you want this quick setting glue. You don't want to sit here and babysit it forever. And then certainly if I'm going to be putting tape on, you're definitely going to lose some of the details. See how I'm just kind of, and they don't have to be perfect, okay? And then, to eliminate the cracking, we didn't get any cracks. They do separate a little bit at seams. Seems like no matter what I do, how much I kind of shove the clay back in on itself, it still wants to separate at seams. Sometimes it's better than others. And so I'm pushing this, like condensing it back. Okay, and there we go. Now, it doesn't matter if this piece, okay, fits nicely with this, because there's going to be knots and all that, right? So let's do that, right, like that. And we'll make it fit by adding some clay, or just kind of using a tool to fix that. Okay, so again, we're going to really do our best to just kind of shove the clay parts together. And I'm going to put a bead trim, or maybe just more of these branch trim into this divot. You know, like this maybe. But I really do like the idea of the bead trim that's in Classic Elements. So now, where these two join up, I'm going to go ahead and add the glue now. So I didn't waste the glue on the whole piece because we didn't know where we were cutting it off, right? Now, if you have toothpick or whatever, I have these rubber brushes. I'm going to take maybe a little water and kind of meld this together. If you get a little cracking, or like if you mix clay in the mold and you see like a little separation, this is a way you can fix that as well. Just sort of with a little water, kind of blend. And then I'm taking the tip of this and I'm going to make, you know, more of those branch lines to kind of make this look like one piece. Easy peasy, right? And again, you're going to, over the next, I don't know, in 5 minutes or so, you're not going to have an easy time moving this. Because it does, it starts to set up really fast so that you can keep moving and you're not hiding your work with tape. Obviously, it's harder to do when it's, what's the word? So maybe this. And I guess I could have brought the crosses up more, the intersection up more, but it didn't happen. In my head, I just thought that it looked better kind of in this position rather than up more. Because you still have the lattice is what my thought was, but you would see more of the florals when you still had the, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense to any of you, but you know, it made sense to me at the time. Okay, I'm not going to glue it all the way to the top, but I'm going to see if I can squeeze that in. I'm going to use just the right amount of glue so that when you press it, and I'm going to put a little bit on the end. I'm not sure if that helps or not, but in my head it does. Seems like it should, right? And then, remember we want to press this in on itself. Let's see how close we can get. Use this to kind of really get that into. I'm going to use that to also press down, and it's giving me those little vein marks, right? The little crunches from the branch. And you know, that's just not wanting to fit all the way. So I'm going to just stick a little glue right in here. And just take off this little bit. I'm going to have our damp rag and wipe off this excess glue. Now this stamp is done with inks and they've dried for a couple days now. So this isn't something you'd want to ink and then go and do this too right after, because you got to let the inks kind of set up a little bit. But they do set up fast because, you know, the IOD is supposedly a fusion ink. So I think it's more important to give it more time to dry than the typical ink. But as long as it's like a wet, it'll move. You know, you don't want that. And just try and get this as straight as you can. Try and encourage that in there, because I wanted this to really be kind of shoved into place, so that when it dries and it wants to shrink, we have a little play, hopefully. Okay? And then, see the glue, I don't know if you can tell, is kind of oozing out right out to the side. Okay? And that will eliminate some of the caulking. And just like, you know, trim at home, when you're doing your wood trim at home and you have the gaps, you caulk it. That's what will end up happening here as well. Right, so let's see, let's do another one. And we can do this. Let's do this first. Let's get the big ones out of the way. I'm going to cut this to the right angle. Because those leaves would be over the lattice. And since we're going to blend these intersections, I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, this is the first I'm doing this. I don't think it's going to matter, though. if I did only these first and joined these after, right? Like this one, I went straight down this way and then joined these two. Where, because I'm doing a blend with the clay after, I don't think that's going to matter. And then another thing I'm going to do, and I'm just thinking of it now, the reason I started here is I wanted the front to be a nice cohesiveness to it, kind of evenness. But if I have to do any kind of fix where it's not going to be evenly sized, I want it to be back here where the handle is. So I'll work my way, maybe this might be my last on this side. And then we'll start working from this side over and then try to get the pattern to fit. But if it doesn't fit really great, it's going to be with all the busyness of the handle and everything. And it's like the back side, right? You don't usually put the handle side facing to everybody. Okay. So isn't this fun? I hope you like it. I got a like over here. I got one person watching over. Come on, guys. Say hello. Don't be shy. So we have people who like to watch, but they like to do it like incognito. Secret, top secret. We had a nice Easter. I hope you all did. It's always interesting we bring the dogs to mom's because, mom doesn't have dogs. She's actually a little afraid of them, so. And of course, the two dogs are just nervous wrecks in the car. Bodie looks like he's smiling in my little video on TikTok, but it's like a nervous smile. Joe will be like, oh, he likes it. And I'm like, no. That's not a happy one. I'm scared, Mama. I'm scared. Where are we going? Right? I hope you all were able to enjoy family for the holiday if you do celebrate it. Okay, so now let's fill in. I'm going to kind of give this a little extra. I'm going to go right into that crease and we're going to push it right up in there after. Right? And a little glue. It's so interesting working backwards like this. It was so much easier when I had my other setup. We could have a camera up on top looking down, but all good things, right? If I figure out a way we can do maybe some online classes, get some income where I can afford the subscriptions, I could get that back. My little live video producing app. So see how we have this little intersection? We have those seams. Now I did the other ones why did I do that? I could have used that, oh well. I did the other ones while the first part of the clay was dry, so it doesn't matter. You can do this now or you can do it after. If you do it after, you're going to have to add the clay into the little crease. But because our clay is all still wet, I'm just going to kind of blend it together here. And if it separates tomorrow, we'll just fill it with clay. Take like a little fine tube, right? Like roll it in your fingers. Put the glue down into that little crack. Let's just kind of take this and go right into there. Just do what you can to kind of blend that together so you really don't see a line, if you can. These little rubber tools are handy. Little rubber, I think they're called rubber brushes. Right? What do you think? Isn't this going to be cute? You know, more effort than I'm probably going to get for it, but it's, you know, it's the artist in me. I got to get the idea. I got to go with it. I'm going to try and keep this in a line here and add this down to there. Don't be shy with any questions. There are no silly questions. I don't sell the IOD products any longer, but I do sell the paints and the top coats and the stains and decoupage and all kinds of goodies. So make sure you check out, it's no longer Seaporium.com, it's Seaporium.square.site. And again, we want to just really try to condense this, not only glue it on, but really push it like in on itself. Because we did some stretching of the clay. And if you don't put it back into place as it dries, it's going to want to shrink back and it cracks. This is easy, right? We can add to this. Oh, perfect. These were ones, I think this was one that sat out a little bit longer. It's a little more crusted. So when they're a little more crusted, it's nice because you don't lose a lot of the details. But it's not going to be as easy to blend this little intersection here, the little seam. A little water. And if this separates, again, like I said, we'll fill it with maybe just the caulking will be enough. But most likely I'm going to be putting like a little glue right in the little part where it separates here and roll up a fine tube of the clay, get it in there. And see, this is what I'm talking about. Once the glue comes into the picture, like, you're gonna have messy hands. Right? Isn't this fun, you guys? So I'll keep playing with this, but let's talk about how, because I gotta keep working, and I could keep doing this and just really get involved, but let's move things along and talk about, what did I do with my caulk? How I fix things. Here's the caulk. I'm going to have to get some more. This is a very well loved and used tube of Alex Plus, all right, caulk. It's a white, it's paintable, which is something you want to make sure you're getting is a paintable caulk. If it's something you're using outdoors, if I was doing this on a flower pot or whatever, I'll be using the Formflex, and I would be using this is also, I think, exterior grade. But if you don't use this, make sure it's paintable and it's, you know, a temperature appropriate for what you're working with. Now, see here I have where it's meeting the top. Even though I did my best to kind of press the clay in here, as it dried, it pulled off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this caulk. It's getting hard to move it. So I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty. I always cut the tip at an angle, all right? So it's not a flat cut, it's cut at an angle. And I like to do it because I'm crafting, but even when I'm doing it on wood trim, I wouldn't do it much bigger hole than this. Okay, it's a pretty fine hole. Because, you know, you don't need it. My husband likes to do it where he can just get a ton of it out at once and just wipe off most of it after, which made no sense to me. I'd rather just have it fit better and not waste so much. Now, because this sets up so fast, you're going to want to work in small sections. And since we're also in such intricate details, something around like a Q-tip is handy. And because this is a craft project, I mean, it's not a finely carved piece of furniture or anything like that. If you don't get like all the seams down, that's fine. Just at least the parts that have lifted, you know, kind of high off of the surface is just so that if someone presses down on it, that it doesn't crack, okay? Because there's no surface behind it. There's that gap. Okay, but that's where it's nice to have the glue just right so it kind of creates that sort of self-caulking. All right. Oh, that's my cue. We gotta get dinner ready. So that's how I work the caulk. Damp fingers, have a rag, get this right into there best you can. You can also do, if you had cracks, fine cracks within your mold, you can fill it with this instead of the clay. But you want to make sure you get this excess off, because this isn't going to like, I don't think it's going to sand nicely, so it's not like you're going to try and sand this smooth after. And you don't want it so messy that it fills in all your details either, so be mindful of that. Okay, so I think that area is done. Maybe a little bit there, since I have it on my thing. And I'll just finish, you know, working. There's a big gap here. Can you see it? See it right there? See that? We'll do that one. And you can get as detailed on this as you want. Like I said, that something like this, I'm not going to seal that up. This isn't carved out of a pottery. This isn't that. Okay? It's not that kind of a piece. Now, if I was getting, you know, this is a high-end look that I'm really doing it as an art piece, and you want it to look like it's, you know, hand-done pottery or ceramic, then go for it. But try to keep mindful of what the project is, okay? And if it's worth going to those details. Furniture, yes. Stuff like this, probably not. I'm coming, Dolly. I'm gonna come. I'm just finishing up.
Yeah, I gotta run down the store now.
Why?
Yeah, the grocery list.
Oh.
I gotta go over there. She's cutting the grass.
Okay.
But she's sleeping in
Aw.
so
Okay. Aw.
I just don't think she's sleeping.
Yeah, she'll be fine.
Huh?
She'll be
Yeah,
fine.
she wakes up, she won't say nothing.
I know. I know. I'm coming up soon, hon. Just finishing up, okay? Say hi. All right, so. And this is what I'll be doing tonight. Easy peasy, it's gonna be super sweet. It's a similar color to the fluff, and if it was a smaller piece, I'd probably just leave it alone, but because it's kind of gotten all over coverage, I'm probably gonna go ahead and try and get a decent coat of the fluff on the mold after. I could do that now if I wanted. If you could let it crust up about a half hour or so, so it, you know, so your brush doesn't, you know, make marks in your fresh clay, you could do that. You don't have to wait for the clay to be dry to paint. But you want to be mindful of the caulk needs like 20 minutes to dry. Or I think, is this 20 minute or 40 minute? There's one that's 20 minutes. This one might be a 40 minute. You know, again, watch your directions on your products. Again, with the glue, you don't want to seal it, but we can paint it with our chalk style or clay-based paints. And then tomorrow we come in and we do any fixes, fix up the paint, and then let their caulk dry or whatever. And then when everything's dry, we can seal it up. I like to give everything at least 2 coats of like a clear coat. This will probably get, I'm thinking I might just do the flat on here. I think it'll be pretty in flat. You could do a wax over it. Obviously, we don't want to wax on a wet clay. Because you got to really rub it in there. But that's it. I'm going to continue this project, and I hope you enjoyed it. And until I see you all next time, okay, stay sassy. Bye.